cancer and colorectal cancer. What's the difference?
Sure. So the large intestine is made up of the colon and the rectum. And it begins where the small intestine ends, and it continues down to the anus. This large bowel measures approximately 5 feet, and the great majority of that is the colon, which goes from the small intestine to the right colon, the transverse colon, the left and sigmoid, and the rectum begins where the colon ends. And it's roughly about 12 centimeters from the pelvis down to the anus.
All right, and the statistics, as you know, are really shocking. Colon and rectal cancer are expected to kill more than 50,000 people. That's a lot this year alone. Now, the most well-known screening test, is a colonoscopy, but that's not the only one, right, doctor?
No, there's several screening tests, and each of which has its own merit and downfalls. The first type of screening test available is a stool study. So many patients with colorectal cancer will present with anemia, and typically this is from losing blood within the bowel. So we're able to test the stool and see if there's what we call occult blood in the stool, meaning stool looks normal, but there's microscopic evidence of blood within the stool. If these are positive, then the next step is to look for the source of bleeding. Again, if there's blood in the stool, we don't know where it's coming from, so we have to assess where it's coming from. What we have are visual screens. The first two are endoscopic measures, such as the sigmoidoscopy, which is very similar to colonoscopy, but it's a shorter camera. It can usually look for about 60 centimeters of the large bowel. The colonoscopy is very similar, but it's a larger camera, and it can really assess the entire colon. The last screening test available is called a virtual colonoscopy, and this is basically a CAT scan of the colon, where we get a 3D image of the colon and we can assess for the presence of polyps or tumors. And this test is really limited to people who we feel are medically unfit to undergo an endoscopic procedure.